Monica James adjusted the strap of her leather briefcase as she walked through the bustling terminal of Atlanta International Airport. The fluorescent lights reflected off the polished floors, and the constant hum of rolling luggage wheels mixed with announcements over the PA system. She had flown in under an alias, a routine she had perfected over years of undercover work. Monica wasn't just any traveler, she was an FBI agent embedded deep within an operation tracking an international smuggling ring. Her mission required precision, patience, and invisibility. She noticed a man in uniform leaning near the security checkpoint, scanning the crowd with an intensity that made her instincts prick. Airport police were common, but there was something off about him. He had a swagger that bordered on arrogance, a sense of entitlement that made the terminal feel smaller. Monica reminded herself to stay calm, to blend in. As she approached the checkpoint, the officer whose badge read Officer Bradford stepped forward abruptly. "Ma'am, step aside. Your bag will be searched." His tone was brusque, almost accusatory, as if Monica's presence alone was suspicious. Monica's dark eyes narrowed slightly, and she raised her hands in a gesture of compliance. "I'm an FBI agent," she said smoothly, deciding to test his reaction without revealing too much. "Is there an issue?" Bradford chuckled, a low, condescending sound. "FBI? Sure, ma'am. Everyone's the FBI these days." He waved her toward the side, motioning for her to open her bag. Monica felt the familiar surge of anger, but she controlled it. Exposure at this stage could ruin months of careful planning. As Bradford rifled through her luggage, Monica observed him closely. The man's impatience was evident. His disdain for her presence was palpable. Other travelers cast curious glances, whispering behind their masks and luggage. Monica's mind raced, cataloging the situation like a tactical map. She had handled hostile interactions before, but something about this man felt dangerous, more personal than professional. Bradford pulled out her electronics, laptop, tablet, and phone, yanked them open, and began tapping keys with a force that suggested irritation. "What are you hiding?" He sneered, his eyes scanning for any sign of deceit. Monica's pulse quickened, not from fear, but from the necessity of quick thinking. Any wrong move could compromise the operation she had spent months nurturing. "I have nothing to hide," Monica replied evenly. "I suggest you follow proper protocol. You're not above the law." Her words were calm but firm, carrying a weight that made Bradford pause for a moment. A flicker of surprise crossed his face. "Do you know who you're talking to?" He snapped, as though reminding her that the uniform granted him power. Monica simply smiled, a small, knowing smile that only she understood. She had trained for situations like this, and she had a plan. The tension escalated as Bradford continued to probe, unaware that every move he made was being recorded not by his own devices, but by Monica's. She had strategically placed a small recording chip in her bag, a failsafe in case of harassment or interference. Every word, every gesture, every violation of protocol was now on tape. Just as Bradford raised his voice, a supervisor appeared, a tall woman with sharp features and a calm demeanor. She glanced at the scene, her eyes narrowing. "Officer, is there a problem here?" she asked. Bradford straightened, a mixture of annoyance and embarrassment flashing across his face. "This agent," he began, but the supervisor cut him off with a raised hand. Monica knew this was her moment. She stepped forward, her voice steady, carrying the authority of someone who had spent years in law enforcement herself. "I am not just any agent. I am FBI, and your behavior toward me is unprofessional and unlawful. I suggest you reconsider your actions before this becomes a formal complaint." Bradford's face turned red, a mixture of rage and humiliation. He stepped back, muttering under his breath, while the supervisor gestured for him to stand aside. Monica exhaled slowly, maintaining the calm exterior she was known for. She had won this small battle, but she knew the larger war, the one outside the airport. against criminals far more dangerous than a harassing officer was just beginning. As Monica walked away, she activated a discreet earpiece. "Target in sight," she whispered, her voice low but precise. The mission was far from over, and every step she took from that moment on would be crucial. Bradford might have thought he had the upper hand, but Monica James was always 3 steps ahead, and her next moves would prove it. Little did Bradford know, the encounter would cost him far more than embarrassment, because Monica James had already started orchestrating a chain of events that would expose corruption within the airport police, all while she pursued the criminals who had eluded the FBI for months. Monica moved through the terminal with the ease of someone who belonged, though her mind was far from at ease. Officer Bradford's hostile demeanor had been unsettling, but she refused to let it derail her focus. Every passenger, every security camera, every glint of reflection on the polished floors was being processed by her trained eyes. Her mission was clear: intercept the shipment that could fund a global smuggling network. What she hadn't expected was interference from within the airport itself. She ducked into a quiet hallway behind the main concourse, pulling out a small tablet from her bag. The device lit up with live feeds from nearby surveillance cameras she had tapped days earlier. Her team was already monitoring key access points, cargo bays, loading docks, and employee-only entrances. She scanned the footage, noting every movement. Then her gaze froze on a man slipping through a service corridor. His posture was casual, but the precision of his steps betrayed him. Monica's pulse quickened. He was clearly part of the network, and he hadn't noticed her observing him yet. "Eyes on target," she whispered into her earpiece. Within moments, a voice responded. "Copy that, Agent James. Backup ready if needed." She nodded, though no one could see it. There was a thrill in operating undercover, a dangerous exhilaration that kept her senses sharp. But the nagging memory of Bradford lingered. There was something off about the way he had singled her out. Most harassment she could ignore, but this felt different, like a warning, a test, or worse, a threat. Monica had learned early in her career that internal corruption could be deadlier than any criminal. She made a mental note to dig deeper into the airport police records later. For now, she had a mission to complete. Moving stealthily, she followed the man down a service staircase that led to the cargo loading area. Her footsteps were silent, a result of years of tactical training. She watched as he met 2 other men, exchanging a small, nondescript package. Monica's stomach tightened. This was the shipment her team had been tracking for weeks. The shipment that could destabilize multiple countries if it reached its destination. She took a slow breath and prepared to move in, but an alert pinged on her tablet. Bradford was back on the concourse, apparently searching for her again. Monica's jaw tightened. He wasn't just a nuisance. He was escalating, and she couldn't risk him discovering her presence here. She ducked behind a stack of crates, watching him pace like a predator. He glanced around, muttering to himself, scanning faces. Monica knew she had to act quickly or the operation would be compromised. Pulling out a small, compact camera, she began capturing the interactions of the smugglers. Every detail counted: faces, mannerisms, even the type of package. She had to remain unseen, a shadow within the shadows. Bradford's silhouette appeared near the entrance, and for a moment, he stopped, tilting his head as if sensing something unusual. Monica froze, holding her breath. Her training kicked in automatically. She remained perfectly still, almost blending into the background. Bradford scanned once more and moved on, oblivious to her proximity. Once he was gone, Monica exhaled quietly and refocused on the smugglers. She activated her earpiece again, providing her team with a full report. They're at the cargo bay. 3 suspects. Packaging looks consistent with narcotics and unregistered electronics. Proceed with caution. A calm voice replied, "Understood. Extraction team moving in." "Stand by for signal." Monica's eyes narrowed. Every second was critical. She had to balance capturing evidence, staying undercover, and preventing Bradford from interfering. As the smugglers prepared to leave the loading area, Monica noticed a subtle shift in their behavior. One of the men glanced toward the stairs where she had entered. She stiffened. Had they seen her? Or worse, had Bradford tipped them off inadvertently? Every scenario flashed through her mind, each more dangerous than the last. Monica silently counted to 3 and then activated a small device on her wrist. It projected a faint, near-invisible laser grid, a security measure she had installed earlier. If anyone crossed a boundary, an alert would go directly to her team. It was her silent advantage, a measure that could buy precious seconds in an emergency. From the shadows, Monica realized the stakes had risen beyond her immediate mission. Bradford's interference, whether intentional or not, now intersected with the smugglers' operations. She understood clearly, to succeed, she would need to outsmart not only the criminals, but also the law enforcement officer who underestimated her. Every move counted, and one misstep could turn the situation deadly. With meticulous calm, Monica prepared her next step. The smugglers were moving, the shipment was within reach, and the unseen battle with Bradford was just beginning. She allowed herself a brief, determined smile. Whatever happened next, Monica James would ensure that her justice prevailed. The cargo bay smelled of diesel and cold metal, a harsh contrast to the warmth and polished chaos of the terminal above. Monica James crouched behind a stack of crates, her heart steady but her mind racing. The smugglers were preparing to move the shipment onto a waiting truck, unaware that the FBI had eyes everywhere. But even as her team was ready to intercept, Monica sensed a new threat, a subtle shift in the air that made her instincts flare. Bradford's presence, though unseen, lingered in the corridors above. He had returned to the checkpoint but remained fixated on her earlier confrontation. Monica had long since realized that his interference wasn't random. Something about his behavior suggested an agenda, a willingness to obstruct her mission at any cost. She couldn't yet confront him directly. It would blow her cover. Instead, she would turn his ignorance into an advantage. The 3 smugglers worked quickly, their movements precise and rehearsed. Monica observed them like a predator studying prey. The smallest gesture, a hand signal, a glance toward the security camera, revealed the inner workings of the network. She tapped her earpiece and whispered, "Team, be ready. Extraction point in 2 minutes. Wait for my signal. Avoid confrontation unless necessary." As she spoke, a shadow fell across the crates. Monica froze. A figure approached, not the smugglers, not Bradford, someone else. A man in a dark hoodie, his eyes hidden behind reflective sunglasses, slipped a small device under a crate. Her pulse quickened. Was he part of the operation or a third-party threat? She had trained for moments like this, yet the unpredictability made her nerves hum. Monica moved with calculated silence, creeping closer. The man's movements were deliberate, almost too precise, and he didn't notice her until she tapped the crate sharply. He spun, startled, fumbling the device. Monica's hand moved to her concealed firearm, though she didn't draw it yet. "FBI," she said calmly, her voice carrying the authority of her position. "Step away from the equipment." The man froze, then raised his hands. I wasn't stealing," he stammered. I'm here to help." Monica didn't lower her guard. His claim sounded plausible, but the situation was too delicate to trust anyone at face value. "Who sent you?" she demanded. "I'm internal," he said, glancing around nervously. "I've been tracking corruption in the airport police." "You're not safe with him." He jerked a thumb toward Bradford. "He's more dangerous than you think." Monica's mind raced. This was confirmation of what she had suspected. Bradford's interference was no accident. It was part of a larger, hidden network, perhaps even colluding with criminal elements. Before she could question him further, the truck's engine roared outside. The smugglers were moving the shipment faster than expected. Monica signaled her earpiece. Team now. In synchronized precision, FBI agents emerged from concealed positions around the bay, their presence causing chaos. The smugglers froze, then scattered, but Monica was already moving. She intercepted the man with the device, securing him quickly. "Explain everything," she demanded. The man's hands shook slightly, but he complied, providing details of how Bradford had been tipping off certain shipments, ensuring they could leave the airport undetected. The pieces fell together. Bradford wasn't just a nuisance. He was a liability to national security. Suddenly, Bradford appeared at the top of the loading ramp, his face twisted in rage. "What is going on here?" he shouted, drawing his sidearm. Monica didn't flinch. She had anticipated this. Her earpiece crackled with support from her team, all in position. "Drop the weapon, officer." "You're interfering with an active FBI operation," she said, her tone precise and unwavering. Bradford hesitated, the weight of her authority and the presence of federal agents hitting him. He had underestimated her, assumed his uniform and badge gave him control. Now he realized he was outmatched. Monica saw the subtle twitch in his eyes, the internal conflict between pride and survival. In that moment, she knew the entire web of corruption could unravel if handled correctly. She stepped forward slowly, maintaining a calm but commanding presence. "This ends now," she said firmly. "Any attempt to obstruct or conceal evidence will be documented. You will face consequences." Bradford's jaw tightened, but he lowered the weapon slightly. The smugglers had been detained, the shipment secured, and the internal threat exposed. Yet Monica knew this was only the beginning. Even as she organized the evidence and ensured her team secured the bay, a thought lingered in her mind. Bradford's interference had been intentional, targeted. Why had he singled her out? What networks of corruption extended beyond the airport? Monica realized that uncovering the smugglers was only the first layer. The deeper, more dangerous threat lay closer than she had anticipated inside the system meant to protect. And so, as the airport returned to its chaotic rhythm, Monica James prepared herself for the next phase of the mission, dismantling a network of power and corruption that reached far beyond a single shipment. She knew Bradford would not disappear quietly, and his shadow would follow her every step. But Monica was ready. She always was. Monica James returned to her temporary safe house near the airport, her mind still racing from the morning's events. The operation at the cargo bay had been a success, the shipment secured, the smugglers detained, but the encounter with Officer Bradford weighed heavily on her. His interference was no random act. It was calculated, and she knew that if left unchecked, it could compromise the entire investigation. Monica had faced dangerous criminals, but internal threats were far trickier, cloaked in authority and procedure. She settled into a chair, placing her tablet on the table and reviewing the footage from the operation. Every frame, every angle was meticulously analyzed. Bradford's movements were suspiciously coincidental, as though he had anticipated her actions at every turn. Monica's jaw tightened. She had trained for such scenarios, but the layers of deception here were more complex than anything she had faced before. Her earpiece crackled softly. "Agent James, all evidence secured and transported to the lab. Smugglers are being processed, situation contained," her partner reported. Monica nodded, though he couldn't see it. "Copy that. Begin cross-referencing airport personnel records. I want any connection between Bradford and external entities. We're not just exposing smugglers, this officer is a threat." Monica then activated a secure channel, pulling up background checks, communications logs, and financial records. Within minutes, a pattern emerged. Bradford had been discreetly funneling information to unknown parties, facilitating illegal shipments while maintaining the guise of law enforcement. Monica's pulse quickened, not with fear, but with clarity. The mission had expanded. She was no longer only chasing smugglers. She was dismantling a web of corruption inside the very system meant to uphold justice. She leaned back, considering her next steps. Confronting Bradford directly could expose her cover, and yet ignoring him could endanger not only the operation but countless lives. She needed a strategy, a way to neutralize him while maintaining the integrity of her identity. Monica's mind raced through possibilities: undercover leverage, covert surveillance, even controlled exposure. The next day, Monica returned to the airport under the guise of a business traveler. She moved with confidence, blending seamlessly among passengers. Bradford was on duty again, stationed near the check-in counters. He spotted her immediately, his expression shifting from surprise to irritation. Monica smiled subtly to herself. He had no idea she had already traced his network and documented every illicit connection. She allowed him a moment of assumed dominance, then proceeded with her plan. Using a concealed microphone and discreetly placed cameras, Monica began capturing interactions between Bradford and other personnel. Every whispered conversation, every casual glance, was evidence of his complicity. She stayed close enough to observe without drawing attention, maintaining the illusion of an ordinary traveler. As she collected evidence, Monica noticed Bradford meeting a man in a suit near the cargo elevator. Their discussion was brief but intense, the gestures sharp and deliberate. Monica's instincts told her this was critical. The man handed Bradford a small envelope, and Bradford stuffed it into his pocket, oblivious to the cameras that recorded every second. Monica's pulse raced not with panic, but with purpose. She had what she needed. Suddenly, Bradford turned abruptly, scanning the crowd as if sensing her presence. Monica froze, remaining perfectly still. For a moment, their eyes met, and she saw a flicker of recognition. He remembered her from the confrontation of the checkpoint, but he didn't act. Perhaps he didn't yet realize the full extent of her capabilities. That was her advantage. Once Bradford moved away, Monica discreetly activated her secure line. "Team, we've identified key exchanges. Begin analysis and prepare for intervention. Bradford is compromised." I repeat, internal threat confirmed. No direct confrontation, yet maintain cover. As she walked away, Monica reflected on the delicate balance of her operation. She was an agent in plain sight, navigating criminal networks and corrupt law enforcement simultaneously. Every step required precision. One miscalculation could jeopardize everything. Yet, despite the danger, she felt the familiar surge of resolve. Monica James thrived in chaos, and this mission, though more complex than any before, was her arena. By nightfall, she returned to her safe house, reviewing footage and evidence once more. Bradford's corruption was no longer a suspicion. It was fact, documented and undeniable. Monica's next moves would need to be careful but decisive. The internal threat had revealed itself, and she had the power to dismantle it piece by piece. And as she prepared for the next phase, Monica knew one truth above all. In the shadows of the airport, justice was hers to define, and Bradford's arrogance had just made him her most dangerous, yet controllable, enemy. Monica James arrived at the airport just before dawn, the terminal eerily quiet except for the hum of automated systems and distant cleaning crews. The night's shadows lingered, giving her a sense of operating within her own controlled environment. She had spent the previous day compiling evidence against Officer Bradford, and now she was ready to take the next step. This operation required precision, timing, and subtlety. One misstep could compromise months of work. Bradford was already on duty, his usual swagger masking nothing. Monica watched him from a distance, noting his interactions with other officers and staff. The more she observed, the clearer it became that his network extended beyond her initial suspicions. Multiple personnel, previously thought neutral, were acting as conduits, passing information and aiding smuggling efforts. Monica's pulse quickened, not from fear, but from determination. She was untangling a web of deceit, and every strand she uncovered tightened the noose around Bradford's operation. She moved through the terminal as any passenger might, but her mind was fully engaged in tactical analysis. Her earpiece provided real-time updates from her team, who were monitoring Bradford's communications and the activity of his accomplices. Agent James, her partner, whispered, "He's making a move toward the cargo elevators. Possible handoff in progress." Monica adjusted her pace, keeping Bradford in sight without revealing herself. The handoff was subtle, almost casual, a small envelope exchanged under the guise of a routine conversation. Her instincts told her this was critical, containing either information or payment for illicit activity. She discreetly photographed the envelope with a compact device hidden in her bag, capturing every detail. Every angle, every gesture, every expression was recorded and transmitted to her team. But the situation took an unexpected turn. One of Bradford's accomplices glanced toward her, a fleeting look that suggested suspicion. Monica froze, calculating the risk. She couldn't afford exposure, not yet. Slowly, she drifted toward the edge of the terminal, appearing distracted while maintaining visual contact. Bradford noticed her momentary movement, but didn't act immediately. That was her advantage. He underestimated her, assuming her position was passive rather than tactical. Monica's earpiece buzzed. "Team, hold position. Extraction point will remain until the signal. Avoid confrontation unless necessary." She nodded slightly, even though no one could see her. Every moment was critical. Timing had to be flawless. The handoff concluded, and Bradford moved toward a service stairwell, his movements casual but controlled. Monica followed silently, aware that the next moments could escalate the situation into a dangerous confrontation. She activated a small device on her wrist that allowed her to record audio and video discreetly within a 20-foot radius, every word he spoke, every sound of his movements captured in real time. As she approached the stairwell, a sudden alarm echoed through the terminal. Monica froze, analyzing the source. Bradford's accomplice had triggered an alert, either accidentally or as a warning. The sound drew attention, and Monica's mind raced through contingencies. She needed to remain invisible, ensure evidence was captured, and protect her identity. Bradford appeared at the stairwell entrance, momentarily distracted by the alarm. Monica seized the opportunity. She quietly slipped behind a maintenance door, positioning herself for both observation and rapid action. She could see Bradford on the security feed, checking his communications device, unaware of her proximity. "Agent James," her partner whispered urgently, "the envelope, he's heading to the loading dock. You need to intercept before he leaves." Monica's eyes narrowed. She activated a silent tracker embedded in the envelope during a previous operation. It would give her precise location of the package without direct engagement. She moved swiftly, her steps calculated, her mind orchestrating every possibility. Bradford was unaware that she had the upper hand. At the loading dock, the tension became palpable. Bradford handed the envelope to a waiting courier, who slipped it into a secure vehicle. Monica observed every detail, noting license plates, vehicle identification, and the subtle gestures between Bradford and his accomplice. Her team was in position outside, ready to act on her signal. But Monica hesitated, a strategic pause. Direct confrontation now would alert the network, possibly jeopardizing the larger investigation. She needed to outmaneuver Bradford completely, ensuring that his corruption and the larger smuggling operation was fully exposed. Timing, patience, and precision would be the difference between success and disaster. As she retreated to a concealed vantage point, Monica allowed herself a brief smile. The net was tightening. Bradford's arrogance, his underestimation of her skills, was his undoing. And while the final confrontation had not yet occurred, Monica knew that when the moment came, she would emerge not only victorious but in full control. Part 5 escalates the chase and strategic maneuvering, showing Monica's tactical brilliance while Bradford remains oblivious to the danger closing in. I can continue with Part 6, where Monica initiates a controlled exposure of Bradford and begins unraveling the larger criminal network completely. Monica James spent the night reviewing every piece of evidence she had collected. The smugglers were contained, their shipments seized, and the internal threat, Officer Bradford, was fully documented. Yet the most critical part of her mission was about to unfold. Exposing Bradford's corruption without jeopardizing her undercover status or alerting the broader smuggling network. Timing and strategy were everything. Early the next morning, Monica returned to the airport under a different guise, a consultant evaluating airport logistics. The uniformed officers barely noticed her as she moved with quiet confidence, blending into the morning rush. Bradford, unaware of the extensive files compiled against him, appeared at the checkpoint as usual, his posture exuding arrogance. Monica allowed a subtle smirk to cross her face. His downfall was near, and he had no idea. She activated a secure channel to her team. "We proceed with controlled exposure. I want full documentation and real-time monitoring. Do not intervene until I give the signal." Her voice was calm but carried the weight of command. Every step had to be precise. One mistake could compromise months of investigation. Bradford began his routine patrols, checking employee badges and questioning staff. Monica shadowed him discreetly, using cameras and covert devices to capture every interaction. He spoke in a tone that combined authority and condescension, belittling employees who showed even minor hesitation. But now every word, every gesture, every procedural violation was being recorded. Monica had turned his arrogance into the very evidence that would bring him down. She noticed Bradford slip a small envelope to a uniformed staffer near the cargo bay, the same type of handoff she had documented previously. Using a concealed device, Monica intercepted the transaction without alerting him. Every detail, hand movements, body language, and timing was transmitted to her team for analysis. This was the final piece she needed to connect him definitively to the smuggling operation. Then came the moment Monica had been waiting for. Bradford approached a terminal employee, accusing her of negligence over a minor paperwork discrepancy. Monica stepped forward under the guise of a casual observer. "Officer Bradford," she said softly but firmly, "your actions toward staff today are documented." Bradford turned sharply, his eyes narrowing. "Excuse me?" he demanded, his voice rising. "I've recorded multiple instances of protocol violations, unauthorized handoffs, and interference with federal investigations," Monica continued, her voice unwavering. "This evidence is being transmitted to headquarters in real time." Bradford's face paled. The smugness and superiority he had relied upon evaporated in an instant. His mind raced as he realized the gravity of the situation. Every lie, every act of corruption, every handoff had been meticulously recorded. Monica's calm authority left him with no room for denial or escape. Her earpiece buzzed, confirming that her team had full coverage. Every camera angle, every recording, every intercepted communication was feeding into a live review at FBI headquarters. Monica could see the pressure mounting on Bradford. He glanced around, realizing the extent of her preparation. Panic flickered across his eyes, but it was too late. "Stand down, Officer Bradford," Monica said, now projecting both command and authority. "You are under investigation for obstruction of justice, corruption, and facilitation of illegal activity. Any attempt to flee or interfere will only worsen your situation." Bradford's shoulders slumped. The arrogance, the condescension, the bravado, it all collapsed under the weight of undeniable evidence. He raised his hand slowly, a gesture of reluctant surrender. Monica allowed herself a brief, satisfied exhale. The exposure was complete, yet even as Bradford was escorted away by fellow officers, Monica's mind remained focused. The smuggling network had not been fully dismantled. She had neutralized an internal threat, but there were still layers of corruption to unravel, hidden players to identify, and shipments yet to intercept. The operation was far from over, but Bradford's downfall had opened doors that were previously closed. Monica left the terminal, blending into the flow of travelers once again. Her mission had taken a new turn. With the internal threat removed, she could now pursue the network in its entirety, uncovering the international connections that had eluded authorities for months. Every move, every decision, would now be driven by intelligence, precision, and the unyielding pursuit of justice. And as she disappeared into the crowd, Monica knew one undeniable truth. Bradford had underestimated her, and that mistake would cost him far more than humiliation. It had set in motion a chain of events that would dismantle a network built on secrecy, corruption, and greed. And Monica James was the agent at the center of it all. With Bradford removed from the equation, Monica James shifted her focus entirely to the criminal network she had been tracking for months. The smuggler's reach extended far beyond the airport international routes. Offshore contacts and shell companies obscured the flow of contraband, yet Monica thrived in complexity. Every hidden thread she unraveled brought her closer to dismantling the operation entirely. She returned to her safe house, a secure location outfitted with multiple screens and surveillance feeds. Her team had compiled all data intercepted during the airport operations, phone calls, emails, and surveillance footage. Monica meticulously cross-referenced every interaction, looking for patterns. She identified a key player, a logistics manager named Rafael Cortez, whose movement suggested he was coordinating shipments across multiple airports. This man was the linchpin connecting local smuggling to international networks. Monica prepared for infiltration. She assumed a new identity, a shipping consultant from a logistics firm interested in partnerships. Her cover was flawless, backed by fake credentials, digital histories, and a fabricated business presence. Every detail was designed to withstand scrutiny, because any lapse could alert the criminals and jeopardize months of investigation. She arrived at a discreet warehouse on the outskirts of Atlanta, where shipments were being stored temporarily. Cameras tracked her movements, but she had ensured her devices were undetectable. Cortez was there, overseeing a team loading crates into trucks. Monica's pulse was steady, her focus absolute. She observed the interactions, noting codes, signals, and unusual behavior. Every gesture, every hesitation could be a clue. Through subtle maneuvering, Monica gained Cortez's attention. "I've heard you manage high-priority shipments," she said smoothly, keeping her tone casual. "I'd like to discuss a potential partnership, legitimate operations, of course." Cortez studied her, wary but intrigued. The risk-reward dynamic fascinated Monica. She had prepared for moments like this. As negotiations proceeded, Monica carefully planted tracking devices in the shipments. Each device was disguised as a standard shipping label, but allowed real-time monitoring without detection. This would give her team the ability to follow the shipments to their final destinations, exposing the full extent of the network. Suddenly, Cortez's demeanor shifted. He glanced toward a side entrance, and Monica noticed a subtle signal to one of his associates. Her instincts flared. Someone had become suspicious. She maintained her calm exterior, nodding and taking notes, while internally recalibrating her plan. If she was discovered, extraction would be complicated, and she needed contingencies in place. Her earpiece buzzed. "Agent James, we've got movement. Additional personnel arriving on site." "Possible internal threat overlap," her partner whispered. Monica's mind raced. Bradford's corruption had been neutralized, but remnants of his influence could still complicate operations. She needed to finish planting the trackers without arousing suspicion. With practiced precision, she excused herself briefly under the guise of reviewing paperwork and completed the final placements. Cortez noticed nothing, focused on his team, confident that his operation was secure. Monica had successfully inserted her surveillance, creating a digital trail that would expose every subsequent move. As she prepared to leave, Monica subtly collected a sample of documentation from Cortez's office, a ledger that could link him to international contacts. She slipped it into a secure folder, ensuring her movements were untraceable. The combination of trackers and evidence meant the FBI could now follow the network end to end, mapping every shipment, transaction, and collaborator. Once outside, Monica exhaled, allowing herself a moment of satisfaction. The operation had escalated to a level she had only imagined. Bradford had been the first domino. Now the entire network was within reach. But she knew better than to underestimate the criminals. Cortez was clever, resourceful, and ruthless. One mistake, and months of work could unravel in an instant. Returning to her safe house, Monica began analyzing the data streaming from the trackers. Every shipment, every route, every contact was now visible in real time. Patterns emerged, and with them, vulnerabilities. Monica could see the network in its entirety, a map of illicit activity connecting local smugglers to international crime syndicates. As night fell, Monica's resolve hardened. She had neutralized internal threats, infiltrated the network, and gained control of the evidence. The final phase was approaching, dismantling the operation completely, arresting all key players, and ensuring that justice prevailed. And as always, Monica James was ready. She allowed herself a brief, determined smile. The heart of the network had been reached, and nothing, not arrogance, not corruption, not danger, would stop her from completing the mission. The sun had barely risen over Atlanta as Monica James reviewed the final preparations. The operation had reached its critical stage, the culmination of months of undercover work, meticulous surveillance, and high-stakes maneuvering. The criminal network was mapped, key players identified, and evidence compiled. Even Officer Bradford's corruption had been thoroughly documented, leaving no room for evasion. Now it was time to act decisively. Monica coordinated with her team at FBI headquarters, their voices calm but focused over secure channels. All units in position. Confirm arrests and evidence extraction protocols, she instructed. Every move had been pre-planned. Multiple entry points, precise timing, and contingencies for unexpected interference. Monica's meticulous approach left nothing to chance. At the warehouse where Rafael Cortez coordinated the network, FBI agents moved in silently. Monica, in plain clothes, entered last, keeping her cover intact until the moment of action. Cortez was caught off guard as officers revealed themselves, surrounding the room. Panic flitted across his face, but Monica's calm authority dominated the scene. "Rafael Cortez," she announced firmly, "you are under arrest for conspiracy, smuggling, and multiple counts of international trafficking. Any resistance will be met with force." Cortez's crew attempted to flee, but Monica's team had anticipated every exit. The trackers she had planted earlier guided agents directly to every shipment, each route and transfer already accounted for. Within minutes, the entire operation was contained, shipments secured, personnel detained, and digital evidence cataloged. Monica observed everything, her mind cataloging every detail for follow-up investigations. Meanwhile, Bradford's removal had left a ripple effect. Other corrupt personnel, realizing the internal network had been exposed, hesitated, some confessing to their involvement. Monica had created not only a tactical victory, but a psychological one, demonstrating that corruption, no matter how deeply embedded, could not withstand careful scrutiny and decisive action. Back at headquarters, Monica presented the evidence she had collected: surveillance footage, intercepted communications, financial records, and documentation from the network. The volume and precision of her work left no room for doubt. Prosecutors praised the comprehensiveness of the case, noting that Monica's dual focus, simultaneously dismantling criminal and internal threats, had been unprecedented. Bradford, now facing federal investigation and criminal charges, had no defense. His interference, once a personal challenge to Monica, had become the keystone in exposing broader corruption. Monica's calm determination had turned arrogance into liability, demonstrating her tactical brilliance and strategic patience. As Monica walked out of the headquarters late that evening, the city lights reflected off the glass walls, a reminder of the world she worked to protect. Every shipment intercepted, every corrupt official removed, every criminal detained was a testament to the painstaking work of one determined FBI agent. Monica's career had always been defined by discretion, intelligence, and resolve. Now, it also carried the weight of triumph over both criminal networks and systemic corruption. She paused briefly, thinking of Bradford, the smugglers, and the invisible threads she had traced from airport terminals to international routes. Justice had been served, but Monica knew the work never truly ended. There would always be threats, always be networks to dismantle. Yet in this moment, she allowed herself a rare, satisfied smile. Monica James had turned a hostile airport encounter into the unraveling of a sophisticated criminal network. She had exposed corruption, secured critical evidence, and ensured accountability. Most importantly, she had done so without compromising her identity, her mission, or the integrity of the law. As she exited into the cool night air, Monica's eyes scanned the streets, ever alert, ever vigilant. In the shadows of the city, danger would always exist, but so would Monica James. And wherever injustice thrived, she would be there, ready to act, ready to prevail. The mission was complete, justice had been delivered, and Monica, always 3 steps ahead, had ensured that neither arrogance nor corruption would ever stand unchallenged again.